Hey guys, welcome to my new channel. My name's Greg Fennell. I'm a professional photographer based here in London, and today I'm going to give you a little walkthrough of my lighting kit. This is the beast. So this is my main camera lighting bag, which I use kind of day to day on portrait commissions, etc. I've spent the last 15 years shooting, and so this kind of kit has developed over that time. It's been something that I've built based on experience and kind of being on jobs and going, you know what, really wish I'd had that, or next time I'm going to pack this. So it's kind of slowly built up and evolved over time. And today I was just going to give you guys an insight into it, so you don't have to, you can save all that time and kind of learn from my mistakes, I guess. So to start with, the bag is a Think Tank Airport Security. This is version 1, and I believe they're on version 3 now. So this bag is about 12 years old, and it's still holding up. It's beginning to get signs of wear and tear on the handle and on the base here. But you know, 12 years being used and abused. It carries a lot of kit, it's very heavy. So it's doing pretty well. One of the things I love about Think Tank is they're a company that's kind of, you know, the designers are all photographers, former photographers. They really know their stuff. They know what they're looking for. They use the equipment themselves, and they kind of put some really clever little ideas and design features into their work. So this bag is pretty basic as their bags go, but it's robust and it does have some cool little features. One of the things I like on this bag is that it's a rolling bag, but in the back here, they actually have back patch straps, should you need them. Also in here, they have a little security cable. You can lock your bag to things. Here on the back, I don't know if you can see that, but they have a little unique reference number, serial number for the bag. So if it ever goes missing or anything like that, you can report that, and you can register the bag with Think Tank. Just another nice little useful touch. There are side stretchy pockets. Big kind of pocket here with pockets and side pockets that I store little bits and bobs in. And on this side you have your lock for the zips, so you can, that's TSA approved and what have you, so you can use that for traveling with. And yeah, let's get into the bag, okay? So, inside the bag, what have we got? Now normally I use Profoto heads most of the time, and at the moment I'm shooting with, well, in here, today's loadout, I have a Profoto B1 here, 500 watt wireless. You have your battery, which literally just plugs in and you are good to go. Obviously you need a trigger to fire it, but I'll come on to that in a bit. Great flash heads. Really robust, really well made, solid bits of kit. In this setup I've actually got 2 other flash heads in here. I have the smaller B10s. Now the B10s are almost like the younger sibling of the B1. They are less powerful, they're 250 watts compared to the 500 watts. And so, but they're great, they're almost half the size. They also use wireless kind of systems, so the batteries just plug into the side. They have a little charging port, so you can actually run these off AC power, which is really useful. One of the things I like about these is you have LED modeling light as well, which you can control the color temperature of. So that's kind of cool. Kind of bright. Could be potentially used for video at times, although occasionally the fan will kick in, so not so good for sound. But yeah, they're funky little lights. Obviously their primary use is flash. Now, not designed for video, but the LED is a good touch. They have Bluetooth connectivity, and you can actually control them with an app, which at first I thought was a bit of a gimmick, but I've actually used it a couple of times on shoots. You know, it's been useful to be able to, if you've got a couple of these set up and you've forgotten which one's which, you know, you can whack on the modeling light and see which one is turning on. Okay, dial that one up, dial that one down. Just a kind of useful touch. Also kind of a backup if you're having problems with your remote or anything like that. The bracket on the bottom actually comes off, So when you're packing these, I mean, when I pack these, I never pack them with the batteries attached. But now that is just a cylinder. It's kind of a similar footprint to a lens, so it becomes quite easy to pack that. And you can just fold the bracket up quite small and stash that somewhere as well. The only gripe I have with these lights is the bracket itself. This wonderful like knob here is basically not got any grip on it. So if you tighten that up a lot, it becomes really hard to sometimes to get that undone. Also, they lack a PC sync port on them, so they can only be fired by the wireless transmitter, and the wireless transmitter does have some blind spots on it. Notably, if this flash is quite close to the camera, if you've got your camera here and the flash is kind of up here, sometimes it just won't fire. So that's a bit annoying, because if you have a problem with your Air remote, then you know you're a bit stuffed. You'd end up having to fire something like the B1 and using B1 as master to fire these as slave perhaps. You know, there are normally ways around it, and as you'll see with the kit, I try and get redundancy for everything. So moving on, we have next the trigger bag. Now the trigger bag contains my Profoto Air remotes. We have batteries in there for it, we have Sharpies, we have other triggers, we have bungees, and we have Velcro. So a whole load of stuff. I'll walk you through it. The Profoto Air remote, I have two of these, one for my Fuji kit, one for my Canon kit. Guess which one this one is. I've labelled them all up because they're not particularly, they all look exactly the same, and they've only got a tiny thing on them saying if they're for Canon or Fuji. So you don't want to get on a job and realise you've got a trigger that's not compatible with your camera. They take AAAs, again, never travel with the batteries in because they tend to kind of turn on in the bag and wear themselves out. In here I have Sharpies. You can never have too many Sharpies. I have the standard ones with a thick end and a thin end, so they're just good for kind of marking up stuff. This is the bronze Sharpie, and the reason I have that is if you want to write on your kit, if you want to mark your kit with your name, etc. Most photography kit, for some reason, seems to be black. You know, so being able to write on that with one of the metallic Sharpies is actually a good tip. I learned that off a fellow photographer, Sam McElwee. So big a shout out to him because that is invaluable. What else do we have in here? So triggers. I have some generic triggers here, which are, they have a transmitter and then I have 4 receivers. Now these are basically quite basically basic, but what's nice about them is I can also use them to fire the camera. I can plug them into the camera and use them as a remote, and they are basic, but it means that they're pretty kind of safe. And if I have a problem with my Air remote for whatever reason, it's not working, at least I can fire the B1 with these. B10 I can't because it doesn't have that PC sync port, but they will work on the B1, so I have them in there as backup. They also take AAA batteries, so same batteries. Bungee cords, really useful to have. You can do all sorts of configurations with these and tie things off, and they're just a good little bit of kit to have. And the other thing I have in here, which I also have like strapped into the bag in various places, because this is Velcro, and amazingly it sits on the bag, which is nice. Velcro zip ties, they're an absolute game changer. Means you can reuse them, you can use them as cable ties, you can use them I've hung backgrounds on them, like threading these through eyelets, brass eyelets on tarpaulins and canvas backdrops. I've daisy chained them, I've done all sorts with them, so they're really useful to have. You can get them color coded, you can get them with your logo on, your name on, whatever. Just a useful thing to have in your kit. Next up we have the grip bag. Now the grip bag, this is I believe is an old Muji wash bag which has been repurposed. I liked it because it's got tough material, it's heavy duty, and it was lying around, so thought I'd use it. You can see it's an old wash bag. I think you're meant to hang it in the shower. Not that you'd want to do that with this kit, but actually being able to hang this as a counterbalance on the back of a C-stand, you know, it is quite heavy because it's full of grip. It's actually quite useful. So in here I keep spigots, brass spigots in the top, and then down below we have super clamp, umbrella clamps, spring clamps, croc clips, more bungees, plastic zip ties, yeah, just all sorts of useful things. A lot of photography when you're using lighting is about kind of changing the environment and working with what you've got, but also being able to adapt. And you know, you might need to pin a curtain back, or you might need to get cables out of the way, or whatever, like, or flag practicals. You know, you constantly need to be kind of problem solving, and having a good set of grip in your kit is crucial for that. Last thing that's in here is a big old standard bungee cord. That's just really useful to have for all sorts of things, and it doesn't weigh much, so it packs in there. So what do we have here? Next up we have a belt pouch. This is a great little pouch. This is from a company called Life Behind Bars. I picked this up last year in Indonesia, actually, on a job, on the recommendation of an assistant. Sebastian, if you're listening, thank you. I went to found their little shop in the back streets of Jakarta and went in and got this. And it's really well designed. It's got a little magnetic kind of clip on the front, little hang clips. You can wear it on your belt vertically or horizontally. Yeah, and little side loops for stuff. So it works perfectly for what I need it for. So in here we have Sharpies, another Sharpie. Can never have too many Sharpies. A Thorfire LED torch, useful to have. You're looking in your bag, whatever. We have a light meter. This is the Sekonic Flashmate L308S. They always have catchy names. This is just obviously flash meter, useful to have. We have a little grey card. I kind of treat this more as an emergency kind of thing to have in the bag, because I have a colour card elsewhere. And then lastly in here we have the Leatherman Wave, which is a great little tool to have. And the reason I've gone for the Wave is that you can get the bit kit with it. So this bit kit means you have screwdrivers, Allen keys, all that kind of stuff with you, which is great because it means suddenly your tool is a lot more useful. You can also get them, this one's I've got my name on it kind of engraved in, and that's not some kind of ego trip thing. It's because so many people have these and they're not cheap, and so you don't want it going walkies. And if you've got your name on it, it kind of settles any dispute of, oh, I thought it was mine. So pop that away. Next we have tape. Every photographer has tape and loves tape and has a weird kind of fetishize about the colour of tape they have. I have bright orange. It's quite common to have bright orange actually. You see a lot of gaffers with this. It's like a material tape, Pro Gaff, I believe this is. And the reason this stuff's great is it's really easy to see. So I use it for marking lights and what have you on the floor, but also with the Sharpie that I mentioned, you can write on it. So you can write your light settings, you know, your f-stops, etc. You can also use it to kind of mark the end of a boom arm that might be hanging in set, or like the end of an umbrella which someone might poke their eye out on. You can put high-vis tape and then hopefully, you know, prevent someone jabbing themselves in the eye. Normal gaffer tape, just standard stuff. I mean, not all gaffer tape is equal. This is cheap, but I wouldn't recommend buying cheap stuff because non-sticky gaffer tape is really annoying and pointless. It has one job, and that's to stick, and if it doesn't stick, what's the point? Okay, so next we have a little grid. This is a Honnold speed grid, I believe. 1/8 speed grid, if you're really interested in fractions. This I use to go on the front of flash. It just allows me to kind of channel the light a little bit more if I want to put in a hair light, or I want to put in kind of a rim light somewhere, or just to kill the spread of a light. It's just a useful thing. I can gaffer tape that onto the front of any of my flashes. It's designed for speed lights, but it works just about on these ones. Okay, next up, more clamps, more grip. Down the side here, I have a Manfrotto Nano stand, although technically it's a 001B. It's kind of like the size of a music stand, so it's small, it's lightweight. You don't want to be putting big heads on here, you don't want to be putting heads with large modifiers on here, but useful as a backup. I can pack 2 of them down the side in here, which gives you a good idea of the size of the bag. And so yeah, really useful to have in the bag. Obviously I have my separate light stands in a different bag, but this means I've always got a backup. Okay, the last thing we have in the main part of the bag are batteries. So I have AA's, AAA's. These are by a company called Eneloop Pro, and they are rechargeable, which makes a big difference. They're really good. I have them in a clear plastic case for a reason. Obviously with them being in a plastic case, I can fill up the plastic case, and when I use them, I can immediately see if there's some that haven't been packed away or that aren't in the bag, because the plastic case won't be full. So it's just a very quick indicator for me as to whether or not I've got all my kit. I swap them around when they've been used in there, so I can tell if there's 2, 3 of them facing the other way, they probably need recharging. So they live up there. Moving on, we have the lid organizer part of the bag. So this section of the bag, what have we got in here? So at the top we have AA's, more AA's, Duracell, these ones. These aren't rechargeable, but they're kind of backup. Next to that we have my personal care section, which has some mints and some chewing gum. I think the chewing gum's probably been sat there for too long to be any good. And earplugs, just in case you're somewhere where you need that, like at a concert or construction site or somewhere, although you probably have your own PPE at that point. I also have little single-use eye drops. These are great because they, as a photographer, you need your eyes. If you get something in them, it's good to have something like that in your bag just in case. I've got, in this middle section, I've got model releases. I have some cleaning wipes, just for lens cleaning, but also if I will need to clean my laptop. And then I have this stuff, which is kind of odd. It uses kind of nanotechnology. They're called nano rubber pads. And effectively, they're a backup if you need to stick something somewhere. That sounds rude, but like for example, I'm going to demonstrate, and this probably won't work, but if I slap that on there and then wanted to pop my phone on to take a selfie or film or something, boom, magic, it sticks, and just peel it off, and it doesn't leave any real residue. I imagine after lots of use it gets quite gacky, but I've heard that you can clean them. I don't really use them that often, if I'm honest, but they're in there as a backup, again, another way of just solving a problem. Maybe one day, we'll see. They don't really take up much space. And in the bottom section, we have some silica gel and some plastic bags for drying out bits and bobs if we need to. We have a Optec USA bag, which is designed to cover the camera. It basically has a cinch strap one end that you can cinch around the lens, and you can put your hand in the other end like a puppet and operate the camera. I don't really have it in here for my camera. I have it in here for the flash heads, because if you've got your B1 out and exposed and it starts raining, you don't want rain and batteries. They don't mix. So being able to have something that you can quickly shove over the top of the flash is just quite useful. Obviously you wouldn't want to be leaving it on there for too long and firing and the flash loads with it covered in plastic. Might overheat. Unlikely, but probably not worth risking it. And then in here we also have Datacolor Spider Checker 24. So this is just a grayscale and color chart. Useful when you are taking portraits or doing still life or anything like that where you need to know your white and black points. We're nearly there. So, last few things. Front of the bag. This, in here I have some black corrugated plastic card, very cheap and cheerful. I think this was packaging for something and I've repurposed it. I use this as a flag quite often. Normally I have them separated, but if I want a bigger flag I can just tape them together and clip them up next to a light. I can use them for kind of negative fill if I want to create a shadow area. I can use them to flag a light, as spill kill. I can do all sorts of these. So yeah, they're good. They're good kind of useful bit of kit to have basically. And it weighs nothing. And it happens to fit in the front, so it's a no-brainer. Then I have this little folder. This folder is full of, it's not particularly exciting, this one. It's got a few goodies in it. We have some Cinefoil, which is otherwise known as black wrap Cinefoil. Basically, it's glorified tin foil painted matte black and a bit more heavy duty. And you can bend it to a shape and it will retain that shape. So good for wrapping around a light. When it's used, it gets a bit knackered, but you can reuse it. I mean, apart from the paint kind of coming off a little bit, still usable. I have tin foil in here at a pinch if I need some kind of reflective thing or want to create a highlight or something. And then I have some craft foam. Now this was a little thing I got years ago off off a website called Strobis, and if you don't know that website, you should really go check it out. I learned so much of my early kind of lighting techniques from that website. It was all designed for kind of people getting into photography and learning lighting and using speed lights. It was run by a guy called David Hobby. It's still all online, so it's a great resource to go and have a look at, so shout out to David. Somebody put this on there as a kind of thing years ago as an idea, and basically it's just got Velcro on it. This craft foam you can pick up at any craft shop, but it's very easy because of the way it bends and is so flexible. You can create a snoot super easily with it, which is great. It won't fit around my main flashes now, but I can still use it as a form of flag. So that's good. We also have more model releases, some business cards, promo cards, that kind of stuff. And then this, which is a whiteboard, piece of plastic basically, that you can write on with a whiteboard pen. And the reason I have this in there is sometimes on a shoot when you're doing like a really complicated lighting setup and you want to kind of record it for being able to look at later, I will kind of mark out all the lights, mark out all their power settings, what modifiers they had on them, what gels they had on them. And then I can give this to my assistant who can stand in the frame. We'll take a photo of that with them holding this up so that later when I'm back in the studio, if I want to reverse engineer some lighting that I did, I've got this as a reference. I don't always do it, but if it's a complicated lighting setup, we spend a lot of time kind of finessing, then it's quite nice to be able to record it for prosperity, just so I can do it again if I need to. Okay, and then that all lives back in there. And finally, we have my gels folder. So you may have noticed that my ProPhoto heads, they have little Velcro tabs on the front, and that corresponds to the Velcro tabs that I have on here, which means I can slap these gels onto the front of my lights quite easily and quickly. So I actually spent an afternoon in the studio painstakingly cutting circles out so I could do this. But it is super useful. Everything's labelled, it's easy to find, all my CTOs are on one page, all my CTBs are on another page, and then I have various colour correction and kind of more experimental kind of colours and gels. But it's very easy for someone to pick up whatever gel I need because it's labelled and because it's kind of organised along with complementary colours. But it also is quite easy at the end to see whether or not you've missed one, if you've left one behind attached to a light or whatever, because there'll be a gap in here. I also have some diff and some more Cinefoil and some little homemade cookies, ND and Frost. So kind of lots of little things tucked away in there as well. So in my stand bag, I have normally 2 Manfrotto stands. These are the 1052 BAC stands, very catchy name. They basically are very good because they clip together, which is great for packing. They fold down flat and you can clip them together. Also in here I have some Profoto modifiers. These are umbrellas, brollies, and they have the diffusers. I have a large and a medium in here at the moment, but they do all sorts of different configurations. I have the extra large as well. It doesn't quite fit in this bag. I have to take that in another bag, but they're great because I do use a lot of the Elinchrom Rotoluxes and softboxes that Elinchrom make, but in order to use them on the flashes, I have to take this with me, which is a Profoto adapter for the Elinchrom. So basically this will allow me to use a Rotolux on my Profoto head. So that's it, guys. If you've got any questions, please pop them down below. If you're interested in seeing more of my work, on my Instagram, you can go there and check that out. I do post behind the scenes bits and bobs every now and again. So if you have any questions, reach out and hopefully I can answer your questions. All right, thanks for watching.